Hello everyone, velveteenduck here. With release 250, lightning builds on Spellweavers are kinda back in fashion, so let's talk about constructing one that'll suit the way you want to play. As always, if this video helps you out, please leave a like, subscribe, and share with your friends to help support the channel. Oh, and special offer for those of you who do play another class other than Spellweaver. If you fancy yourself to be an expert in your class and can write guides, feel free to DM me on Discord and partner up to make some guides for your class. Anyways, back to Spellweavers and lightning build. Let's start off with some of the advantages and disadvantages of this particular build that I'm showcasing here, so you can compare and contrast with other builds that I will eventually showcase. So, advantages. Number 1, strong against fire element type critters. And in case you forgot, there's this lovely little circle of elements diagram that illustrates this point exactly. Number 2, strong against bosses during shield mode and bosses with immunity to armor and resistance breaks such as Mortis, because electrified isn't actually considered a debuff, so it still stacks. Number 3, excellent damage output in group play, provided someone of another class is synergizing with you, because electrified stacks are shared. Plus, other classes can break lightning resistances. Number 4, lots of freedom with equipment choice. Number 5, a long distance playstyle makes survival easy. Alright, and now for some of the disadvantages. Number 1, weaker in solo play due to Spellweaver only having a single lightning resistance break, and thus you can't stack resistance breaks. Number 2, low crowd control. You do get a stun at 50 stacks, but from 0 to 49 stacks, you are on your own. Number 3, you need time to build up your stacks of electrified. Obviously, the faster your attack speed, the less this will be an issue. I'm sure there's other advantages and disadvantages I didn't mention, but let's not dwell on that for too long and dive right into actually talking about the build itself. Let's start off with the experience tree. Depending on what level your character is, you may or may not be able to put points in certain talents, or you may not have enough points to set it up exactly the same way I do, but that's fine. Be brave, make some modifications that suit your particular situation. Starting with the Master of Lightning, I maxed this passive out since I like that there's a damage increase that gets added to your 2 heavy-hitting lightning skills. But if you don't want to, you can always get away with either just 1 or 2 points out of the 10 for the massive AoE boost to Lightning Strike. Now, in terms of the passive talent selection below the masteries, I know there's only 2 talents, but there's actually 3 choices, and these choices will affect how you distribute points on the wisdom tree, runes to a lesser extent, and some gear choices, so I will mention all of that as well. Choice number 1, Arcane Concentration, which is a beginner's choice. You need this talent for some mana regeneration, so just 1 out of the 5 points is sufficient. This is the most suitable if your character is brand new and it has few to no runes, especially the runes of efficacy and recharging. Choice number 2, don't pick a passive at all. This is suited for players who have built or want to build a large mana and mana regeneration capabilities via their runes and wisdom. If you have already invested in these runes before release 250 and can't bear to part with them, then this is a very solid choice. And choice number 3, Blood Mage, which is actually my new favorite. Now, up to you how many points you want to invest in it. The minimum to get it to work properly is 2 out of the 5 points. But for me, I am not turning down that extra damage and extra healing effect, so I invested a full 5 points into it. I like Blood Mage, but word of caution for those of you who've never used it before. It does have slightly stringent requirements to pull it off successfully. With Blood Mage, you can choose to either play a true glass cannon, since you'll permanently have 1 HP thanks to every single skill taking away a big chunk of your HP, or you can choose to play Block Mage, which essentially turns you into a nearly unkillable cockroach even when you're spamming all of your skills, but you do sacrifice damage in order to pull this off. The thing to understand with Blood Mage talent is that the inflicted damage is physical damage and can be reduced with armor, and block also reduces the damage taken. So, by relying on these 2 stats, there's no way for Blood Mage to kill me, as I can out-heal the damage that I take. With Blood Mage, you can pretty much turn your regular wisdom setup upside down to some extent. Conjured Distillation, completely useless. Same with runes of efficacy and recharging. Instead, I've been trialing some substitutes, so I actually maxed out Vivacious Vitality talent, and I'm using the runes of resilience and fortitude. I'm also using the runes of regeneration, but I'm actually unsure that they're worth the investment unless you're also going to equip one or more pieces of equipment that give HP regeneration. Now, applicable to all of the aforementioned choices, you should be maxing out your decisive strike for crit and attack speed that is appropriate for your particular weapon type. You should be investing in runes of devastation, celerity, and vigor, and if you have a low wisdom level, you should also be maxing out the runes of the wisdom seeker. Okay, now let's head back to the experience tree now and talk more about the skills themselves. There are 2 core Spellweaver skills that are part of every Spellweaver build. The first one is Mind Control. Use this one on enemies that are either gray or green colored and force them to fight for you. If you are foolish enough to try and cast this on a blue rarity or higher enemies, the skill will be wasted and will go on cooldown. The most important function of Mind Control, however, is that it redirects attacks away from you so that you can stay alive. The second core skill is Singularity. The skill breaks both armor and elemental resistances, as well as slowing down the target. Just remember, the effect is strongest at the center and gradually weakens towards the edges, so don't be sloppy, and make sure you drop your Singularity squarely on the center of important targets. There's a choice of 2 different movement skills, Teleport and Frost Charge. Both are viable and can be good options depending on what you need. Teleport is definitely the superior and less buggy movement skill when considering just the movement aspect of things. Plus, you don't need to invest any points into it to make it useful. Frost Charge is better considered as a healing skill with only minimal usage for movement due to its exceedingly buggy nature. Word of advice here. 1. Don't think of using this skill offensively to dive into a mob. Instead, focus on using it defensively to escape attacks. Second, never use it at maximum length if possible to minimize your chances of the rubber banding bug. And thirdly, make sure that the aggro isn't on you when you use it because you're vulnerable to attacks at the destination spot. Anyways, take whichever one of these 2 skills you prefer. I have used both. They both have their strengths and weaknesses, and depending on how you want to set up your character, some people might actually use both at once. The final non-lightning skill I have in my kit is actually Frost Nova. I don't bother putting any points into this one. Its only purpose in life here is to provide me with a freeze so I have time to back away from something that's getting a little bit too close to me. If you choose to discard this skill in favor of some other one, that's entirely up to you. Alright, so lightning skills. There's 4 of them in the lightning skill column, but only the first 3 actually inflict any kind of lightning damage. Chain Lightning is your basic attack that can hit up to 3 targets. This skill is very flexible, so it's great for any kind of hit and run type tactics. Lightning Strike becomes your nuke skill. While its original intent was mostly a single target skill, as the damage kind of tapers off towards the edges, with the Master of Lightning boost you get a doubling of the attack radius and a lightning field that deals continuous damage. Ball Lightning is another large AoE skill. I wouldn't focus on this one necessarily as a damage skill, but use it more for its supportive properties. It also applies a huge lightning field, but most importantly, it reduces the cooldown of Lightning Strike, so with a large enough number of targets, you can alternate spamming these 2 skills non-stop. And the last skill in the lightning tree, Guardian. Hilariously enough, he deals physical damage. Guardian serves its purpose of being your meat shield to block attacks, and if you choose to play with the Blood Mage passive, it is a portable healing potion. Now, let's take a quick look at a few examples of how to use these skills together in a practical manner. Start the fight off with some mind control. Once the taunt takes effect, drop your Singularity to cover as many targets as possible. If there is a more powerful or important target, prioritize centering it to maximize the armor and resistance break effect on it. Drop a Lightning Strike squarely on the target, followed by Ball Lightning to reduce cooldown. If you're successful in reducing cooldowns, you can alternate between Lightning Strike and Ball Lightning non-stop. Use Chain Lightning in between for quick damage, or if you don't have sufficient mana to cast your skills. If you're using Blood Mage, you'll probably want to position your Guardian in a semi-safe spot, either to your side or even slightly behind you so it doesn't take too much damage and can heal you for a longer period of time. On the other hand, if you don't use Blood Mage, you should be positioning the Guardian in the line of fire and hiding behind it as a shield. If you chose Frost Charge as your movement skill, use it for a combination of repositioning and healing if your health drops too low. On the other hand, if you chose Teleport, you should be kiting to minimize damage taken and only using Teleport purely as an escape. In terms of equipment, Lightning build is actually pretty lax. There is the belt, Barak's Instinct, which is a very solid item to use, and then you have a choice of 2 different two-hand weapons. There's the staff from Amelia, which is also a world drop, and the Q4 staff, which is the Barak one, from the Parallel Worlds, which can also be crafted on the workbench. Personal opinion here, I think the Barak staff is a little bit better than the Amelia one, although if you do get a very good Amelia staff, by all means, you can use it. Of course, since I have a few screws loose, I decided to stick with a one-hand playstyle for Lightning build, so do whatever suits you. As for all of the other equipment slots, feel free to pick and choose whatever your heart's desire. I just happen to be using the Poison Extinguisher set from the Infested Sewers of King's Hill event for the extra damage. There's only one set that I would actually avoid, and that would be Dragan's Protective Armor set. I was a little bit heartbroken to discover that even though you can block your Blood Mage hits, it doesn't trigger the set effect. Now, if you do choose Blood Mage, I would probably devote 1 or more items towards block. But if you are the god of kiting, then you can always pass on this block thingy and just play with 1 HP. Just don't blame me if you do die a lot as a result. If there's anything that I missed in this guide or wasn't too clear about it, feel free to just drop it in the comments below, or come join Discord. We recently restructured, but hey, we're still the same good old community. And with that, happy farming, everyone.